exactly.
Right now, it's a guessing game. It's like, are we live? Are we not live? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Now we're live. At least I can hear the audio.
Sweet.
Okay. So, and I'll let us. Let's see. Uh, Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do the intro because we're more or less sitting around here, and Rob is getting things all set up. But, well, hello, makers of the world, coming to you live in spirit from I3 Detroit in the innovative Ferndale, Michigan. This is the Make Something Wonderful podcast, a show exploring all the fantastic ways we create. I'm Thomas Tusano.
And I'm Matt Carpenter. This week, we have an excellent guest for you, Jan Henry, in charge of basically everything sewing related at I3 Detroit. Jan, you want to say a few words about what you do?
What I do? What I do at I3 or what I do in general?
I mean, a little bit of both, I suppose. We'll ask some more specific questions later, but this is just kind of a good way to introduce yourself to everybody.
All right. Well, I am I like to sew. And it wasn't a natural thing for me. And how I ended up at I3 leading the sewing stuff is some of a bit of a mystery to me, but that's where I am, and it's a journey that is well worthwhile.
All right, excellent. Well, we're glad to have you. And Thomas, you want to kick us off here, or?
Yeah. Before we get started, if you'd like to know more about I3 Detroit, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and all the wonderful social medias. Links in the description very soon with all the information about our guest Jan as well. So Jan, we do ask, a series of questions here to pull back the curtain a little bit. But I mean, we like starting off the show with showing that our makers and our guests are passionate about what they do. So what do you think you enjoy most about sewing in your creative process?
Most. I think it sums up the power that you have when you have created something yourself. That is probably the best thing ever about it.
Being able to bring something from pattern and raw fabric to more or less a finished dress or gown and know or see along the entire process.
Yeah, something that you can wear. You made it yourself, or with some help, but it didn't come off a rack somewhere. And just being able to figure out. It used to be a mystery how things came together, and now it's not as much of a big of a deal. There are still things to learn, but it's not really. It's a magical thing, but it's not impossible,
It's
and
one of
that's
those
what's
things
amazing
that
about it.
you can't unsee it, right? Once you know how the garments go together, every time you see something like, oh, I know how I would put that together now.
I can't go to the theater without deconstructing things I see in their hems. So
Excellent. Cool. Uh, so I know that you cover a pretty wide range of different. I don't even know if subcategory is the right word, but because I don't know that much about needlework. But what kind of are the areas that you're really specifically interested in within sewing and uh, costuming and whatnot?
areas. It started off. It was mostly fantasy based costuming and recreations of things I see in movies and in television. That's been the main part, but then steampunk took a bite out of us, and so we've been doing some steampunk, and then off of steampunk happened some historical things, and then you get inspired by people doing historical sewing, and then you want to do some of that. And then when you go to places like Disney, you want to be the character, but you can't as an adult. So there's this thing called Disney bounding, where you wear garments that look reminiscent of the character. That's a big genre over there in Orlando and in Anaheim. And from there, they kind of stole that and took into history bounding. So now you have garments that are historically based, but you can wear them day to day in regular life. It's everywhere.
Are there like specific events for those kinds of like Disney adjacent kind of stuff? I assume that's one of the big categories of that kind of community.
There are for Disney specifically. There's the run Disney races, which we've done a number of. There's Dapper Day at Orlando and in Anaheim. Twice a year, they have a Dapper Day where they get super dressed up. If you can imagine what dapper, we're talking like sometimes historical, like 40s, 50s, 60s attire, petticoats, just big skirts, that kind of thing. Most people who go to the parks are usually wearing shorts and t-shirts, and then there's a bunch of people who swarm the place in all of this dress-up attire. And of course, there's conventions for, the regular main costuming.
Excellent. Cool. Thomas, you want to hop in there?
Yeah. So what have you been finding yourself working on as of late? Especially with all the craziness outside, what have you been finding has been keeping you the busiest as far as projects go? Because we can see a beautiful selection behind you of all these things that I know you've probably either hand sewn or altered yourself. So what have you been doing lately?
Well, before all of this started, current events, we had, thankfully, our races in February went off without a hitch. This was in Orlando, so we had our costuming. It went one Disney. You do races. So the race in February is a princess themed race. So this year they had the fairies from Sleeping Beauty for the kind of the challenge, which is 19 miles over a couple of days. Then they had Cinderella theme, and they had Moana. So you pick, one of these costumes that you would like to do, and so we ended up going as Cinderella characters from the live action film, but not the costume that I'm making that's hanging at the space. It's I don't know if you can see it. It's a version that is for running. So it's a kind of more the Disney bound version where it's shorter and it can be washed and it can go in the washing machine and all of that. So then we had his character was Mr. Kit, and we took kind of the basis for his coat and we made that into something that is sport related with a hood instead of the collar. And so we had those race costumes. I did Moana. The only thing I sent away for was the embroidery for my arm pockets. And that I had behind me before. We were able to laser cut with the laser cutter because she has this basket weave pattern in her skirt. So we were able to laser cut out the weave of the fabric that I got.
And then you have the Heart of Tafiti running medal.
Yeah, so the running medal that they gave you for the 5K was the Heart of Tafiti, which is pretty awesome. And shortly after the race started, we also met Moana herself. And the ocean was in the air that day because it was misting. So I was very happy that I'd made us jackets with hoods. So it worked out really well. That went off really great. And the other thing I've been working on, I'm supposed to be working on a Cinderella gown. But I have been taking a course at Oakland U, learning how to pattern draft and drape so that I can learn how to make the best bodice ever for this dress. That is on hold. So I'm back to looking at my kind of what I'm calling it a Disney bound for Belle from the 2017 film. And I actually found fabrics in garments that were sold for fast fashion, and I cut them up and I put them in the garment. They were fabrics that were inspired from the movie. They were replicas, and instead of buying a bolt of fabric, I took the clothes apart, which I'd never done before, and I thought that I never would, because who takes stuff apart? I mean, there are people that take stuff apart, but I never thought that would be me. I can do it, so I did it, and that's what I like to tell anyone, that don't be afraid of it. Try it. And so I have something I'm working on with. I have a Disney bound outfit that is inspired by the film. And the bodice is not done because I also was getting help from that with my professor in getting that sized right. I would say that from a sewing perspective, bodices are probably the most difficult to master. So, and we've also been working on some costumes for a little not person. Sometimes she seems like a person. For a little special little being.
The other special guest tonight.
Would this be
Yes. So this tiny little thing, this is a Belle-inspired little velvet flight suit for Patrick, and it's gonna get a little ruffle skirt on it, and then she will have a dress inspired by Belle because why not? When we take her out in public at the market, she can be dressed in costume. She's gone to the conventions with us, the steampunk conventions, and just felt she's usually wearing her flight suit, but why shouldn't she match us? So that's what we started to do. Um, and I have to show you her closet.
I was just gonna make a comment about how she must have one heck of a wardrobe.
Yes, this is Patrick's closet. So most of these are made by a company called Avian Fashions. This is the first one that I have made. But she has her own closet, and then while we were in Wisconsin trying to feverishly finish our costumes for TeslaCon, he made this. Took one of her existing flight suits and added a skirt to it and a little corseted bodice so that Pat could match us when we were out in our costumes of the same color because you have to match.
That is
Yeah.
And she was really cute in it. So she's gonna model it. But she can't see these out or she will go crazy. So she's gonna come in here. We're gonna get her dressed because sometimes people ask like, how do you get her in that? Well, I'll try to show you. But I have to be really sneaky about it. So
awesome. Yeah, we'll have to definitely leave some time for that. I have no idea
yeah.
how long that takes.
Yeah.
So I guess another question that I would have would be so you've talked about a lot of the stuff that you guys have done up until this point and some of the things you're working on now. What is kind of the big thing, the holy grail kind of thing that you want to be able like to build skills up to be able to get to or to be able to do or to be able to go to? Like is there one big thing?
Well, right now, there probably will continue to be like a holy grail after I catch it. There's always going to be the biggest next fish, because I always think, well, that's okay. That's the greatest thing I will know. There's the next thing. There's the next thing. Right now, it is still the live action Cinderella gown. I have the skirts made, at least the underskirts. The overskirts are waiting for something to happen with the bodice. So for a while, I was taking lessons, and then I took a break, and now I'm in classes to perfect my skills. And then I joined another organization called Foundations Revealed, which has a ton of things online. It's kind of more like Costume College is, but it's just sort of an online community where there's a lot of curated information out there. There are things that I hope to one day to kind of bring to the space in terms of how to lay a bodice. And a bodice is of your dress, usually a very tight fitting garment. Sometimes it's corseted, and that might mean there's like channels in it that are boned so that they form to your body and give you structure and hold you tight. And sometimes there's corsets underneath that corseted bodice, which describes my dress. The goal of this thing, if you were to see any Google image of the 2015 live action Cinderella gown, this thing, it's completely like flat. There are no puckers. It is fits her like a glove. So that to me right now, that's my holy grail is getting that fit, and I'm not resting until I find it. And after that, who knows? I have another project after Cinderella already planned. Been waiting a couple years for it,
That
and
seems to be the thing with a lot of people around I3, right? It's the
yeah,
how long it takes to come up with new projects versus how long it takes to actually do them is it's not a one-to-one kind of
right.
relationship.
And I understand. So you've made reference to a lot of. I think Rob has it up there in the stream in one of the background Instagram images. If he can bring it forward, that'd be awesome. But your dress at I3 like lives in infamy. Like everyone sees it. It's hanging up, and not in a bad way. Like we all know exactly where it lives, and it's been there like 3-4 years. And like I often point to it on tours as like a kind of marker of dedication of some of our members, like as kind of exemplar. Like I'm like, yeah,
Hmm.
Jan's been working on this for 3, 4, 5 years, and not as a bad thing, as a like, this is the level of dedication some of our members show to their projects.
Yep.
And like I'm like, y'all don't have to go that hard, but Jan does. And like that's like I'm like, that's, yeah, it's crazy the level of work, but at the same time, like it shows in that dress. So yeah, that it's, yeah.
I
Just
just
so
kind of
people
assumed it was becoming part of the space, was a piece of decoration or something.
Yeah. Almost. Yeah.
So,
There will be in the future. I have ideas for decoration because my brain just keeps on going and going when I'm not sewing, and it has plans. There are plans for little mannequin in the window wearing an AC filter tutu. It's just, yeah.
I mean, you've done a lot of the decorating for a lot of the parties that I3 hosts, right? Or some of at least.
oh, sorry. We were talking about the you're also a big time like party planner around I3, doing like the baking and the decorations. I know like a few examples come to mind of that.
Oh yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Cool.
yeah. So what else? So Jan, one of the things that we covered in one of the previous episodes, I want to say, was SynShop, was misconceptions about
Hmm.
different things. Like I can say like woodworkers will always tout some sort of horrific shop injury of like losing a finger, or just different things like that. But there's got to be like a misconception about seamstresses and sewing enthusiasts and whatever it may be, tailors, however you want to term it, that just like you hear it and it makes your eye twitch a little bit. Like you have to have one. So we need to know like what, we're giving you an opportunity. What misconception do you want to clear up about fabric arts now that you have the platform tonight on the show?
There is, and it's a very big one. It is the assumption that what we make can be acquired for the cost of things you can find at the mall or at Target. So, say for example, my gown. I have seen, just for example, some of them on Etsy, anywhere from $1,000 to $6,000, and those are people who are probably a little faster than me. Given the amount of years that I've worked on this project, I can never sell that dress. I don't think anybody would ever want to spend $20,000 on a gown. But if you look at, most people are not aware, obviously, because we're not part of that top 1%, right? So we're not really aware of how much the gowns like Lagerfeld or LaCroix or any of them that are making, how much those handmade things really cost. And I mean, they are in the tens of thousands of dollars. So you see some of these things that people are making, and you're like, oh, just a couple of $100, or maybe, can you do this for me for 50? I've heard that a lot, not personally, but I've heard other sewers say this, that, oh, so and so approached me and just asked me if I can make this for $50. I'm like, nope. Do you have any idea that that's the fabric doesn't even cost that? I mean, you can't even just think that if someone was even going to work $20 an hour, even that wouldn't even cover, barely even drafting a pattern. So it is definitely an art that is, yeah, it is pretty much like, couture fashion, all handmade, not by fast fashion means. Um, but that's what makes it really special.
Yeah, and it's sadly a pattern I'm seeing throughout a lot of the arts, where and this is like my own personal battlefront here, is that like I hear it constantly from other artists and from other people who have a skilled trade or craft, they're all like, yeah, people don't or refuse to acknowledge how much our knowledge and our skills and putting the time in, or even what it's worth. They assume, like I've seen people asking me, I can get the same cutting board at Target or Walmart or whatever else for $5, $10, $20. Why is yours so much? And I have to tout
Hmm.
the pros of my work, as well as kind of trying to drop any arrogance and explaining that this
Yeah.
is handmade from start to finish. I was the only person to lay my hands on this piece of work, and I took 3, 4, 5 years of my life to where I can crank out 2 or 3 dozen cutting boards in a month span. And that's still an unimpressive pace, even for for a woodworker. But the point being is the undervalued nature of the arts, which I think needs to change. So hearing that is a
Uh-huh.
little disheartening in one way, but cold comfort in another. And knowing that, I'm not, if this is a problem across all craft, then this is something that maybe we need a cultural shift to fix, and
Yep.
not, you
And I
know,
would hope that with the movement to more desire for personalized, custom kind of things, that people are going to start to be reacquainted with the like value of the things that they're getting, because coming from both of those perspectives, right, you're looking at people have become normalized to mass produced things, right,
Yeah.
things that are produced by the thousands or tens of thousands. And uh well, I guess I'll just use your cutting board example, same thing,
yeah,
right, that they're
yeah,
being produced in mass quantities. And it's you're losing a lot of the, as you say, the handmade. You were the only one that touched this thing, and you made it from start to finish. And I'm sure it's of much higher quality than the $5 Target one.
yeah. I, excuse me while I toot my own horn over here. But yeah, that's like a huge pain point, and I'm glad to hear it from you, Jan, and saying like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is in the fabric arts as well. This is a problem, like so yeah. Um, so Matt, do you
Yeah,
wanna
I
do you
can.
wanna take the
Yeah.
next one?
Yep. So I think you talked a little bit about some of the projects that you kind of used when you first were getting started in uh, fabric arts, but do you have any like specific suggestions for people that are looking to kind of get started, things that you wish you'd known from the beginning, or resources that were really helpful for you getting started?
I think it's I've heard people tell me, "Oh, you should that's really hard. You should start with something simple like a pillowcase or a placemat." And that's okay. I mean, you are learning straight stitching on that, and how to line up fabric and how to pin and the proper use of a sewing machine, and that's okay. But I really believe that if you really want to do a project and your heart is in it, you're going to learn more from that project. Now, thankfully, I didn't, when I was first starting, have opportunity to waste fabric while I was learning because I had a lot of help from his mom. So I had a mentor kind of built in when I started. When I finally kind of decided that, okay, this might be something that I am okay with learning. And then gradually I just took the reins more and more. And now I pretty much run my own thing. But I really think that people should pick something and work with it, want to do it, because that is going to, the more you want to do something, you are going to follow through with that. And the same token, you can also get frustrated with it. So it's very important to find mentors out there. The internet is a great source of that. Um, Having the online sewing communities to be part of that. I always encourage people to come and join and and sew with me on Wednesday nights. Of course, right now we're kind of not doing that. Um, but when we get back to things, yeah, we sew a couple times a month together. And we're not kind of that learning environment where, okay, I follow everything that you're doing, but I think it's something that people, if they get stuck, that there's someone in the room that can sort of get them moving again.
Bounce ideas off of each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just say, we always have to be somewhat self-sufficient at the space. But I think having someone there to bounce ideas off of is good. It's always been really helpful. Um, and joining, groups online, like the group I just joined, is a subscription group, but there are a lot of resources there that are very handy. And before that, even just YouTube, just watching videos, I learned a lot from watching videos on YouTube.
So some of the equipment that you're using, like sewing machines, are not cheap,
No.
right? So, uh, I guess I imagine that you probably got your first ones through family or friends. Or is there any kind of suggestions that you could make there, places people could look? I mean, my first suggestion is to go find a makerspace, right? That's
Yeah.
a little self-serving for us, but that would be my first suggestion for people.
Right. Yeah. A makerspace is a great way to kind of try out some machines. Like ours, we have some Kenmores, we have Husqvarnas that, we have a singer that Karen left. So there's a number of machines that people can, get a look at and try. But I really recommend finding the sewing centers, though, if they're looking to buy one. Find a sewing center in the community where they live and go visit it and try out the number of machines they have there. Um, and some of the sewing repair places, also the dealers, like a Baby Lock dealer, I was surprised to learn that they sell other models of sewing machines there. They refurbish the machines and resell them. And you can get a well-maintained machine for a couple $100 from them. And a lot of these are the tanks. They're tanks, kind of the type of machines that Elisa works on, Kenmores, or Whites, some Jukis. And these are, old. You want to look for, or FAF. Look for an old, heavy metal machine. Those are going to be really sturdy.
You can refurbish them as many times as you want, and they'll last forever, right?
Yep. Yeah, they are known to work through things. Now, today's machines that are plastic and cost about $100, new, are probably not the best thing. And I have I've learned that sometimes your sewing ability isn't your ability, it's your machine. So people tend to blame the machine, or they blame themselves first, and they think, oh, I can't do this, which is one of my main things for keeping the machines well maintained at i3, is because I don't want people to feel like, oh, I can't do this. It's the machine sometimes. um, the threads getting caught and nesting underneath and needles breaking, and a lot of that has to do with the timing of the machine. They are about as delicate as clocks in terms of their intricacy with how they operate. So that's a very important thing for people to remember.
Yeah, that's a big thing, which for me makes them so impressive for the older machines, is that in times before, so I'm electrical mostly, so things that are done all mechanically are just incredibly impressive to me that they were able to make that work. Because I mean,
Yeah.
sewing machines have been around for a long time. Probably started out with Swiss clockmakers, I would imagine.
We have one in the house that's from the late 1800s. Yeah,
It's gotta be
it's a treadle.
a mechanical wonder.
I know I used to be amazed at, like, we talk about the saw stop and the bandsaw in the wood shop, and then I come through the sewing room and there, I don't know which one it is, but it's massive metal one at the end, and like someone basically pointed out to me one time. This was very early on in my i3 membership. Is they went, oh yeah, and that thing will go through like leather, bone, and an entire finger with. I'm
Finger.
like, what?
Yeah.
But that's a sewing machine, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, the Silver Beast.
So I was like, oh boy, okay, all right. So I think that was the prospect of putting thread through my finger was something that kept me out of the sewing room for a long time. I'll go play with the large spinning blades. You guys can keep the needles. I'm fine over here with the, yeah. So.
It's even scissors. I've cut myself with each of my pairs of scissors now.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Are you allowed to cut skin with the fabric scissors? We get in trouble if we cut anything other than fabric. I
Not
thought.
intentionally.
Well,
At least skin isn't paper.
There you
More
go.
like fabric.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've mentioned before too, and I think maybe one other time on the show I've said that like we moved to sanding belts like that you have to cut on the drum sander in the wood shop, and I've said if I catch anyone using the sewing room scissors,
Huh.
I'm killing you, not because like simply because Jan is going to kill me and you're going down with me. And like I've been like, yeah, that she's going to come after me with those. So if I catch anyone, like you're coming with me, buddy.
That's how the
So,
dominoes fall.
yeah, that's how it goes. I'm like, no, but I mean it's a joke. Hopefully, but
But
I
is
do
it?
tell people, yeah, well, I do tell people, I'm like, avoid the fabric scissors. Use the fabric scissors on sandpaper. I'm dead, you're dead, and probably a couple other people in the collateral damage. So do not do it. Like, oh, um, anyway, oh, um, what else is there?
Do you
Oh,
want to give
so
us a few words on Lakes of Fire, Jan?
Lakes of Fire?
Just can you like describe the event a little bit? Because I think you guys go to it, right?
Yeah. Yes. So Lakes of Fire, describe it. Great thing of display of art. So, our art, of course, costumes. So the first year that we went, I volunteered with a costume camp, and the next year after that, they didn't want to continue. So I took over, and of course, David named it Copycats. I'm like, okay, that's perfect. So that's how we were at Copycats costume camp. And yeah, we had a whole castle, and because as we all know, we toppled it over at Maker Fair last year. And maybe someday the castle will come back in a different form, maybe a tiny house. Recently thought tiny house would be a good way to do it.
Tiny castle. Ah.
But it's Lakes of Fire. Yeah, there's a effigy at the end of the event, and they set it on fire, and everyone watches the thing burn to the ground, and there's fireworks. And I think fireworks, the Disney fireworks are really amazing. I stop every time and I watch the fireworks when we're in Disney, and I thought the fireworks at Lakes of Fire were pretty awesome. So it's up there. They do a really amazing job with everything there. The whole call it like the show on Saturday night with the effigy. Um, it's just it's a wonderful community of art and just people being themselves. And one of the kind of the fun things that I got to do my first year was I helped somebody fit their first dress, and he was just so grateful, and I thought that was just the sweetest thing that I could do that for them. And then so then each year after, you know, I have things there for everyone to come in and take. And yeah, with it not happening this year, I am still working on things, and they will be done extra good because we have an entire extra year to work on them.
Yeah, you'll have twice as much next year, probably. Right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I'm sure that as we go through more episodes here, we're gonna be Lakes of Fire is going to be a topic for a lot of people to talk about. I'm sure I've never personally been, but a lot of I3 people go, and I've heard great things about it.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I'd stuck that question in there because I've always heard about Lakes of Fire, and I've gotten the notion, like I've gotten passing glances or ideas of what it could be, but I did want to bring up, like I've never been, I've never seen, the burner community that we do have in I3 are all great people, so I'm like, this has to be an incredibly interesting event, and just seeing what Rob's throwing up for the stream is just like incredible. Probably have to set aside some time to do this
Okay.
one here. But yeah, I wanted to hear it because I know you and David, know a bit about it and do a very fair amount of work, or even at times unfair, like much to your detriment. Like I don't know how you guys manage to put in this much energy every year, or the dedication to it.
Yeah.
it's fantastic is what I'm trying to say. So I did want to like have you talk about it and tell our audience like, oh yeah, this is Michigan's Burning Man is what this is more or less.
It is. It's the Great Lakes regional event of Burning Man, and if you can, I think the first year we went, there was a field with a giant, giant robot in it, and I think he's been now to Burning Man. Generally, what you see, the large, super large things like that are typically at Burning Man, and sometimes I think what they do is they test it out at Lakes of Fire, and then a couple months later it goes to Burning Man. We haven't been. We've sort of tossed around the idea. I think right now we're pretty content with being at Lakes of Fire. But just building the castle was a lot of effort. I think this year we were kind of gonna lay back a little bit and be part of one of the other camps, and I was looking forward to some of that. We were still gonna try to have the knights there, the knights that we built and that Josh helped us with last year, getting what are the knives? Not the knives, but the
like the
the axes
things,
that
yeah.
the knights have. Yeah, that it was his super help with that. We're so grateful for anyone and Ross that helped us do some things, and just a number of people that helped put the castle together. I'm eternally grateful for everyone. And then everyone who helped try to put it together, Maker Faire.
Then take it back apart.
Yeah.
Hey, that castle is incredibly useful, incredibly versatile, and
Mhm.
for what you guys have put into it, has probably paid back its dividends. I know I have to give credit where credit is due. David let me borrow it to do some resin pours because it was in the
Yeah, the
middle of
panels.
winter. Yeah, and so they're basically made out of aluminum insulating panels, like foam covered with aluminum. I was like, huh, can I borrow some of those? And I put them up around one of the structures in the building to make a hut that I could go in and out of to make sure the resin was at the proper temperature. So like that castle, for as much trouble as it's caused, has probably either to you guys or to other members or to the Lakes of Fire community has paid its dividends very well.
If you had to guess, Jan, how many rolls of aluminum tape do you think you guys used putting that thing together?
10?
Yeah, I was gonna
10
say we had
dozen?
reviewed several just at Maker Faire, and it had already gone up once before that point.
Yeah, it was 2 years. It had 2 years at Lakes of Fire and then one stint at Maker Faire. Yeah, and I don't the future of it, because I think we were trying to figure out a way to build it and that it wouldn't tax people so much. That's kind of why I was recently saying maybe we could just do it as a tiny house. But even if like the materials themselves could be incorporated somehow, I'm thinking into some of the insulation and some of the rooms we're gonna build for the space. Maybe they can be done with there. Just because I don't want them to not have any use at all from this point. But the chandelier that Mike helped put together and the crystals that Roger cut, that chandelier, I'm planning on putting it in the summing room because it should be seen. It should be part
There's a lot of really cool architecture
things.
and design there.
There's the mirrors, the talking mirrors. That people at the space help with, and those were not going to go to Lakes of Fire this year because they didn't have a place to put them. But I am planning on putting them in the fitting room, in the summing room eventually, so they will have a place where people can still enjoy them.
Excellent.
And have access to them.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it sounded like Pat might have been in the background there.
I did hear her. Is it her birdie here?
No.
Oh,
What a
look, I have a
entrance.
birdie. Hi, Pat. How are you?
This is the I3
You gonna
Detroit
shake
mascot.
claw?
Yeah.
That's a good bird. Are you a good? Yeah, you're a good
What
bird.
type of bird he is? I don't actually know.
No.
No?
No what?
What type of bird she is?
She's a Quaker parrot.
Ah. And she's with you guys at I3, it feels like fairly regularly, right?
Generally, in the warm months, she may come with me about once a week or so when it's warm out. Yeah.
Sit on shoulders and nibble at beards.
Uh huh. Yeah. Well, she likes to preen hair, so she'll do that. Yeah.
So, which one of her outfits there is her favorite one, or do you let her pick?
I don't let her pick because she gets a little excited about things, and not excited in the way that we might get excited about it, because um she just likes her natural state, and she thinks this is an odd thing, and so she'll kind of put up a little bit of fight sometimes about it. So I don't let her see it usually before I do something. So I don't know. You know, they say about working with animals. So she might give a demonstration of flight here if she sees me take it out. So yeah, I think she knows. She's very smart. She sees her closet here, and she knows what's in there. So she might decide to go somewhere. Are you gonna go somewhere? Or are you gonna stay here?
Gotta be stealthy.
Yeah. She's also learned how to laugh, learn different words, how to say hello, goodbye.
She does. Yeah, she says hello, goodbye. She laughs. Yeah.
It's really funny because someone will be chuckling and then she'll just laugh with them, and it's almost, it'll catch you off guard if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah. Yeah. She does a lot of imitations of things, of zippers, and if she knows you're going somewhere, she'll start doing zipper sounds and Velcro, because that's usually the sound you make when you leave. And she'll also make door squeakings when you're leaving too, because she knows that's usually follows or is part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Incredibly intelligent bird.
She is very smart, and she generally knows when something is about to happen, because she's looking around for her escape right now. I can tell you that. Yeah. So usually, she's gonna take off. Usually, what we do, it's okay, Pat. Is we kind of have her. If people want to know, like, how do you get her in that? We kind of take her and we hold her, and yeah, look at those little legs. She got dinosaur legs. And we put the suit down on the table, and we put in one foot and the other foot, usually. And there's always a bit of chewing that goes on with it, because that's because it's this foreign thing. Birds naturally do not like to wear clothes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. Really.
Check that. Are you sure? Is there a citation on that birds do not wear clothes?
Well, I mean, they don't like to. At least sometimes she acts like she doesn't really like to. But and then you kind of this tight, it goes on with Velcro. You pull out one wing, and you pull out the other wing. It's okay. It's okay. And then there she is. She's got her her little corset on. Yeah.
There we go. See, now we're fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now she's okay. See, it's the thanks, Pat. It's the it's the dressing part that kind of that will freak her out a little bit. Yeah. You can shake claw. Shake claw. Good bird.
It's a well-trained bird.
Yep.
She's well trained.
There's actually a small community of birds that visit I3, right? Of people's pets birds. I think there's a few other people that bring birds in, aren't there?
There was Khan brought his bird Happy in, but Happy is not around anymore. Yeah.
I think there's some I3 pets as well that have become.
Oh, there's a lot of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a few that will come in.
I don't know that many people that dress up their dogs though.
I just.
Jen might.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be a few.
So I wanted to say you do have a fan in the chat. One of my friends who's been listening in from Texas. Hi B. I'll probably embarrass her by mentioning her, but her and her boyfriend Chris are listening tonight, and they just think you and Pat are just adorable. You've become like the sweetheart of the show. So they're very much like, oh my God, she's great. So and she's in the chat now saying, you know, that Pat is precious in the little outfit. So yeah.
That's
So,
excellent.
um,
How many outfits do you have for Pat? Do you figure?
Well, of the new one, when we stopped on the way back, in Chicago, we stopped, on the way back from Wisconsin, and there was a warehouse, 4 floors of, fabrics. So we bought, several yards of, you can only buy a yard each. So we have like maybe 10 yards of velvet. It's a lot of fabric, to make something this little,
for bird
um,
clothes.
yeah, so I have a lot of extra left over. So we're gonna make her one in every color, and add skirts to it. But she has like her entire. She has oh well, this is so the avian. I have to give them some credits because they made these. But Avian Fashions does this, and it's just you Google birddiaper.com. We did that one day, and who would have that? No, birddiaper.com is a real thing. And so they made Santa suits, and for the large birds, they have hats, but she's too small to wear a hat. So they have like this elf, this little elf outfit, and
So it's a
she's
full
got a
holiday
tuxedo
repertoire.
with tails. It has a little tail, so
With
you can add tails
coattails.
to it with Velcro. So she's got this little drawer. Anyhow, I did this whole thing on Facebook where I was talking about these things that I ordered from China. There's a seller on Etsy who makes wonderful clothing for birds, and they took about 3 months to get here, so she didn't have them for the convention in November. But this is a little Asian sweater that the lady made. So these are makers from. What you want that? These are makers from across the world that are making. So I bought several of the things, and so she has a little pink with the. You like that? And then pink with gold, and yeah.
bird.
Where's her tail? Oh yeah. So here's her
Walk-in
little
closet here sometime soon.
tail for her tuxedo that velcros on, and then she has a little hoodie with a cat on it, because cat, and then it's lined inside with candy corn fabric, and then she has a scarf, which she hates this scarf. It's cute, but she hates it. So the suit I've been okay with, but the scarves, that didn't go over well. It's sometimes hard to tell what she'll take to.
Well, it's good she's got some formal wear.
Yeah, she's got to dress up. When we go out, and the main thing for having the Asian sweater was because the theme of TeslaCon was the not the Polar Express, the what's that Asian train? It was an Asian theme, Murder on the Orient Express, and I thought that would be a perfect thing for her to wear for one evening, but it didn't come in time. So she's gonna do at some point here on her Facebook page. I'm gonna have her model all of these, and she'll put them on and model around with it. Yeah, so that she can at least be seen with them a little bit.
Awesome.
So,
that is quite a collection.
So Jen, we are getting close. Like the last few minutes we do spend give you some more time to talk, but I just want to let people know we are coming in on closing time. So as we get closer for the end, we ask, what project you're looking forward to, what are you most excited about. Make sure people at home know where to stay up to date on what you're doing, the latest and greatest of your projects. So they've been asking throughout the chat, like I've been paying attention to the YouTube chat, muting myself so that I can copy links into the chat here. that's if you guys see me turn away at home, that's what I'm doing. I have a second screen here to interact with all of you lovely people out there. But more or less, Jan, your social media will be in the video description. But what do you think is your kind of your favorite place to put your updates? Is it your blog spot, your Instagram, the copycats? I mean, where can people keep up with you the best?
It's kind of all over the place. My Facebook is probably the first landing spot, but that's probably not the easiest thing for, because a lot of the posts are not public. So probably, I guess the easiest thing for me to say where to track that stuff is probably the blog and Instagram right now. And then as soon as I get rolling here, I'm gonna do some recorded video of things that I'm working on. While we've been kind of here at home, I was busy ordering fabric because I ordered some Kevlar. I'm going to be experimenting with some structural tutus. So there's tutus, there's platter tutus, and the platter tutus are the things that stick straight out. Yeah, so they call the you see on stage, like Nutcracker, Swan Lake, a lot of those ballets, the ones that stick straight out, those are called platter tutus. Or I guess what they also probably call them classical. Sorry, I might get some of the purists mad at me, but they're like, it's not a plate, not food. Classical tutu. The romantic ones are the ones that are longer and softer. But I really want to make the one that's very structured and sticks out. So I looked at some patterns for that, and I have some instructions, and I will be probably working on some of that. But I think I'm going to tackle first is some really it's sort of, if you look up Elizabethan ruff, you might see what I'm talking about. Also, I blogged about this extensively in my most recent blog post, how to define the perfect pancake. Again, not food, but I wanted to find the right pattern for this thing, and so I found some inspiration online using techniques that people used to make Elizabethan ruffs. So in history, they had these almost like clown collars. You would think today it's like a clown collar. They're just circular collars, almost like a dog collar. Dogs would laugh at us if they saw us with these. Goes around your neck. Instead, I'm going to make this thing go around my waist. And I have a Kevlar for one version of this that we're going to put. It can be worn by me, or it can be worn by an armature that we want to put at Lakes of Fire some year. And we, the idea is we're going to have this be a fire arena, so it's going to be on fire, and that's just why I had to make it out of Kevlar.
Nice.
With Nomex binding.
Yeah.
So I was ordering Nomex, and I ordered all these supplies and Kevlar thread and all this stuff. So that's some of the things that I'm going to be working on coming up. And I'm now sourcing, if anyone has any idea where I can find some good materials for AC filters that can be turned into a platter, classical shaped tutu. That is one of the things that I want to put. Nate actually suggested putting lights in it. So I figure we got to do something that, because Nate, every time I make something, Nate like, when I put lights in it, okay, all right, so I'm gonna put lights in this thing because I think that will make Nate happy. Put lights in it.
More LEDs is always better.
Yeah, I'll put lights in it. So my idea is it will either be full size or half scale, and then it can be displayed in the craft room, sewing room window, whenever that is, and we can have that out there. So those are some of my, where are you going? Upcoming projects that we're going to be working on.
Awesome. So, and then as I said, after everything ties up here, we're going to put some links so that people can find you down in the description. So as we're trying to be more punctual here, I do have to say, thank you so much as far as things go for coming on tonight. Thank you to Nate Benson, who did donated a camera to Jan to be able to be here. A little you'd have to see the setup. We'll try to probably figure that out and show people how to show them that, because we had this whole thing. So next week's guest is Vanessa Lipson, and she is a ceramics artist that works out of I3 Detroit and our Kiln Zone coordinator. Also, oh, Matt, take
Yeah.
away your bit. Sorry, we're still learning here.
Yeah, if you'd like to support I3 Detroit, which is the organization from which all three of us are actually in leadership, I guess we're all board members. Uh, if
See
you'd
my
like
life.
to support I3 Detroit, you can visit our website, iDetroit.org/donate. And there should be a link there. You can throw some money at us. We would appreciate it. We're working to keep the space going through the closures here. And if you're in town, we'd love to show you around Friday nights at 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the evenings once all the businesses start to open back up.
Mm-hmm. And we'd also like to remind you folks that this podcast, Make Something Wonderful, is a sister podcast of the SynShop show. So we will post those links in our description as well. They're located at 1075 American Pacific Drive, Sweet Sea in lovely Henderson, Nevada. And they'll be linked below so that you can continue the conversation with making and hacking with Crux and the Mighty Pong. And with that, folks, remember to make something wonderful and stay your amazing selves. Robert, if you'd love to play us off. Pat, you've been a wonderful guest, so have you, Jan. And we hope to see you all again soon. Next Friday, same bat time, same bat channel. Bye-bye, Pat. Bye-bye.
Good night. We should have Pat do the outro.
Yeah, let's just teach her the entire outro. All right, and Rob will